Cory Booker, the senator from New Jersey, and also the mayor of Newark, New Jersey, dropped out of the race yesterday. He dropped out. And Rachel Maddow was crying crocodile tears. I don't know if she, because he dropped out, said he ain't got no money. And so they asked people to pray for, and I'm going to let you see this as well. And I can tell you why Cory Booker didn't make. He's too ugly to be president. The guy's like, look at him. Grow some hair, do something. Where's he shaved it? They said he played football. He went to Stanford out there in California. I think Paul's pretty smart. I think he's a Rhodes Scholar. He's pretty smart. Anyway, not smart enough to win black votes because how many people didn't vote for him? Anyway, Mr. Engineer, roll clip number 1.
What do you wish you had known? Is there any bit of this that you felt like would have changed the way you ran?
No, this was one of those races that before we did a poll or anything, I said, this is why I'm running to my team. I think we're getting to this point of tribalism in our country where we agree on a lot of things, values that our politics doesn't reflect. And we want to speak to that sense of severed belonging we have in this country, this sense of shared values, shared pain, but not somehow having a larger American mission in a sense. So this is one of those strange campaigns where I wouldn't change things. I think there was a lot in the atmospherics that the message and the person wasn't the right time. And I had funny moments where I learned my first trip to Iowa, I learned that I was going to have to bring people to my message where I was running for a debate stage and a big guy grabs me and says, dude, I want you to punch Donald Trump in the face. And I look at him and I go, dude, that's a felony. Let me explain to you that that's the exact way to lose. And that we've never beat demagogues and bigots with that spirit. We beat Bull Connor, not by bringing bigger dogs and bigger fire hoses, but by bringing love and artists of activism that inspired other people to come. And that's what I was seeking to do, to show folks that we can beat Donald Trump, but that is the floor, not the ceiling. The call of our country right now is to mobilize this nation to deal with problems that are bigger than our partisanship. And in fact, I still remember with climate change talking to some scientists that said to me, we're going to have a World War II type mobilization nationally to deal with this problem. And I remember my 4'11" grandmother talked to me about beating the Nazis. I'm like, you did not serve in the military, but she had her victory garden. She had her war bonds. Mm-hmm. And so somehow, if we're going to deal with these problems, we're going to have to pull together. And there's a silent hurting in our country because of a need for a more courageous empathy, that we're dealing with mental illness and addiction in our prison system, that we lead industrial nations in infant mortality and maternal mortality. This doesn't reflect our values. Our civic spaces don't reflect the best of who we are, and we have to change that. And it's not about beating somebody else. It's about winning this nation, which means, bringing us together.
Because you embody that, because these aren't just your campaign lines. Everybody who knows you or has followed you at all knows that this is real. I've known you long enough, and I've said this to your face before, so I won't embarrass you, but you really are this earnest and this idealistic, and this idea of courageous empathy is core to you. And because your campaign, I think, showed enough people in the country that about you, there's a different type of reaction to you leaving the race today. Karen Tumulty wrote a piece in the Washington Post today where he said she described you as a candidate of grace in an ugly political climate. What was misplaced, sadly, she says, was the faith that his uplifting message could be heard in the ugly moment that we are in. People are mourning you, not just you leaving the race, but the fact that you leaving the race makes us worry that an inclusive, positive, relentlessly earnest message about empathy and love doesn't have any room in American politics.
Look, I clearly was not good enough to get that message through. My experiences in the toughest of all environments. I ran for mayor of a city that I was not originally from, having my death threats, thuggery, violence, a lot of challenges, and we were able to emerge and ultimately win. There's an Oscar-nominated movie about it called Street Fight. So the grittiest, toughest place to win an election, we won by showing and calling to the dignity of our community, and that we could be a city that can find uncommon coalitions and produce uncommon results. And it was a great experience that I took into the Senate and did things that I felt were the best to reflect the best. Passing criminal justice reform.
In the Trump era.
In the Trump era. And it necessitated doing things to me that often my side of the aisle doesn't like. Like, I became friends with the Koch brothers' general counsel. Mark Holden is a friend. We disagree on so much, But he helped me get that bill to the floor when Mitch McConnell's instincts were not to put it there. I told stories on the campaign trail about, Brene Brown says it's hard to hate up close, pull people in, and talked about how my relationships across the aisle with people I disagree with helped me get things done that for an inner city, low-income neighborhood like mine, literally was liberating people from prison. So I'm in this to win, and I want to beat Donald Trump. I want to send Mitch McConnell back to the backbenches. Nobody's more competitive than this former Stanford football player. But ultimately, how we win is just as important as winning, because you can't campaign wrong and think you're going to govern right. If the country needs to heal, if we need to create bigger bridges, new American majorities that aren't partisan majorities. But God, what my grandparents told me about, or my parents, about the most wretched moments of our history, 4 girls dying in a bombing in Birmingham, ultimately brought new coalitions together to lurch our nation forward. And what ails me now, and I always say, if America hasn't broken your heart, you don't love her enough, is we now see children dying all the time, from Newtown to Parkland to neighborhood streets like mine, and it's not creating that yet. It's not stimulating that moral outrage that makes us drive our country forward in new coalitions. Even though 86% of gun owners, NRA members rather, agree with a lot of the common sense changes we need to do. So something's broken in our politics, and I was hoping this would be an election that we could find some new healing, that it wouldn't be a partisan victory we seek. Because at the end of the Democrats, the call of my party cannot be just to beat Republicans. At the end of the day, it needs to be about uniting Americans to a larger purpose. And that's my prayer for our party.
I was wondering, why did Rachel have Booker on her broadcast? I gave him like 7 minutes last night because he's out of the race. But I guess she had a lot of time that she wanted to fill in, because he really didn't have a lot to say. And I'll let you listen to that. But Booker doesn't have a lot, and he was not really a serious candidate in the first place. I think it's important that, that be pointed out. But I'll let you listen to it. This is a bit of a news blog we do, looking at spiritual wickedness in high places for the most part, making some observations about it and giving people a biblical foundation to the way of interpreting, rather than have Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Janine Pirro or Anderson Cooper or Rachel Maddow or Don Lemon, Rush Limbaugh interpret what's going on in the world. You come to me and I'll tell you based on what the Word of God says. They'll just give you their worldly, sinful view. But the Manning Report will tell you what God has said, whether to say yea or nay, whether to go or to stay. You'll be led by the word of Almighty God. Come to the Manning Report on a daily basis to interpret the spiritual wickedness in high places, because there's plenty of it that's going on. And so I'm the Lord's servant, James David Righteous Rebel Manning, and I'm here to serve you with news and information.